Greetings already, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. I am Parth. I'm a member of the UNEP CYMG, along with Youngo and UNMGCY and the UN1FY. Apart from that, I'm also serving as the founder and chairperson of the board of directors of ECV Sustainability Foundation. And today I'm gonna take this session on the regional MEAs administered by the UNEP with special emphasis on the Tehran Convention. So, talking with Tehran Convention, it is a legally binding convention which was adopted in 2003 but entered in force in 2006. And the UNEP's regional office for Europe, which is in Geneva, serves as the interim secretariat headquarters. And the convention is the umbrella legal instrument for protecting the Caspian Sea environments from all types of pollution sources. And talking about the signatories, and it is signed by the five Caspian littoral states which surround the Caspian Sea, which are Azerbaijan, Iran, Kazakhstan, Russia, and Turkmenistan. The convention sets out the general requirements and the institutional mechanisms for the environmental protection in the Caspian region. And it focuses on preserving, restoring, and protecting the Caspian Sea species and habitats, especially the endemic species of the region. The convention also incorporates internationally acknowledged environmental principles such as the precautionary principle, polluters pay principle, and access to information. Coming to one of the main parts of any convention or any policy, which is the funding. The Tehran Convention is funded by the littoral states, the European Union, and the Global Environment Facility, which is more properly known as the GEF. Talking about the historical context, then the historical context can be seen with in the last few days of the Soviet Union. So the Caspian littoral states recognized the necessity for joint protection and management of the Caspian environment and its resources. And the need became even more prominent after the collapse of the former Soviet Union in 1991. And this increased the interest for cooperation among the littoral states, five of them quite drastically. In the 1990s, the Caspian littoral states engaged in negotiations and researched several non-binding regional agreements. However, as these regional agreements were non-binding, they did not yield the desired results in terms of the environmental protection and sustainable development. Then finally, in 1998, the Caspian Environment Program, which is acronymed as CEP, was established as a regional umbrella program. The primary objectives of the CEP were to halt the deterioration of the Caspian Sea's environmental condition and promoting sustainable development so the region can be of use for the future generations for a longer term. The establishment of CEP highlighted the limitations of the previous non-binding agreements in achieving a meaningful environmental protection and cooperation amongst the states. Now let's come to the key provision of the Tehran Convention. The convention includes, as explained earlier, it includes provisions for the sustainable and rational use of the Caspian Sea resources. And it also pays a major emphasis on the environmental impact assessment and monitoring, and it's a crucial part of the convention. This is quite important because for any policy to work, it is important to get regular feedback on how the impact of the policy is shaping up and what changes it is bringing in the region. The Article 22 of the convention says that the Conference of Parties, not the UNFCCC, which is generally famous, but the Conference of Parties of the Tehran Convention was established, and they meet annually or whenever there's a special request for hearing to an important issue, and it has a revolving chairmanship. The Secretariat is responsible for arranging meetings for the parties and subsidiary bodies, reports, and acts as a liaison for inquiry, maintains data, helps enforce international and national laws as it pertains to the Caspian Sea, provides technical assistance, and carries out functions and programs as stated in the Article 23. The Article 26 of the convention states that each contracting party has a designated national authority to coordinate the implementation of the convention, principally lies with the Secretariat, and to report on the implementation of convention provisions at the national level. Coming to the last article in this list, which is the Article 5, it states that the notification to the littoral states for any proposed activity which have been identified, such as the crude oil refineries of more than 500 tons per day, nuclear power facilities, enrichment of nuclear fuels, asbestos manufacturing, or chemical plants. The convention promotes research and development activities to support the environmental protection, and it is again a very good step towards this direction. The littoral states are obliged to take appropriate measures individually or jointly to achieve the convention's objectives, since it's a legally binding convention. That means that if a party or a state is obliged to do something, if they have agreed to do something, they are legally obliged to do so. Another very important part, last but not the least, is the cooperation with international organizations, which the convention encourages for the effective implementation. As we know that conventions, as we know that the conventions, they become old as the days pass because nothing can be evergreen. So even they require some reforms or some additions. So here we have the 4 ancillary protocols for the Tehran Convention. The first one being the protocol concerning regional preparedness, response, and cooperation in combating oil pollution incidents, which is also known as the Aktau Protocol. It was adopted in the third COP of Tehran Convention in Aktau, Afghanistan on August 12, 2011. And it majorly focuses on enhancing the regional preparedness, response, and cooperation in dealing with oil pollution incidents in the Caspian Sea. It also aims to mitigate the environmental and economic impact of the oil spills in the region. The second protocol is the protocol on the protection of the Caspian Sea against pollution from land-based sources and activities, commonly known as the Moscow Protocol, which came into existence in the 4th Tehran Convention COP in Moscow on December 12, 2012. It addresses the prevention and control of pollution originating from land-based sources and human activities around the Caspian Sea, and it seeks to minimize the environmental harm caused by the anthropogenic activities, which is basically the human activities. The third protocol in our list is the Protocol on Convention of Biological Diversity, which is known as the Ashgabat Protocol, named after Ashgabat, Turkmenistan, where it was signed during the 5th COP on 30th of May 2014. And it focuses on the conservation and protection of the Caspian Sea's biological diversity, which is quite important because all the biological elements are dependent on each other, and the higher the number of the biological elements in an ecosystem, the higher the stability and the resilience of the ecosystem is. This protocol aims to safeguard the unique ecosystems and species found within the Caspian region. The final protocol is the Protocol on Environmental Impact Assessment in a Transboundary context. It was adopted at the first extraordinary COP meeting in Moscow on July 28, 2018, and it addresses the need for transboundary environmental impact assessment for projects and activities that could affect multiple Caspian littoral states, and while it aims to ensure sustainable and responsible development in the region. Now we will talk about the success stories and the challenges faced by the convention. So we'll be talking about the success stories first. The first and foremost successes of the convention is that it played a particular role in promotion of cooperation amongst the Caspian region, and it steered a new model of interaction between the Caspian states over the Caspian Sea. It also identified clear areas for cooperation and advanced those areas despite a lack of clarity and sovereignty over the area in question. And another important aspect is that the UN was seen as a neutral party in promoting dialogue by all the states who are engaged in the Tehran Convention, and the role of the third party in terms of ensuring a level playing field, particularly in the exchange of data and technologies, was very, very important, since it enhanced the trust building amongst all the parties, leading to more effective implementation of the convention. The but not the least, success of the convention is that it established the cooperation between the fisheries and the littoral states. This is quite important because fisheries comprise of a major part of employment for around the world. Now let's talk about the challenges. As it is seen with all other conventions or bodies around the world, lack of funding is the first and foremost issue, followed by the different national legislations, which complicates things because different political agendas will always be present and must be accounted for when developing areas for cooperation. And the last challenge is the shifting geopolitical landscape, especially after the Russia-Ukraine conflict. We can see that a lot of states in the Europe are changing their position and their political alignedness, and they're having a lot of geopolitical shifts in the landscape, which compromises the implementation of the Tehran Convention. So now we'll come to the last section of the presentation, which is the lessons learned. So the first lesson learned is that focus on mutual agreements to make progress while avoiding contention issues like boundary eliminations. Start with environmental discussion and information exchange to pave the way for cooperation in other areas. Involvement of an impartial third party, which in case was the United Nations, is crucial for confidence building, knowledge sharing, and achieving a balanced agreement. Respected individuals in the region should champion the cause to further implement the convention more effectively, be it the Tehran Convention or any convention. Inclusivity of all parties is necessary for buy-in and trust building, even if the initial advances are modest. So basically, the aims and the targets of the convention should be long-sighted and not myopic. And though the progress is slow at the starting, it should focus more on the trust building and dialogue between the parties involved. One should begin with a broad framework agreement based on intentions and important cooperation principles such as principles as stepping stones to address more substantive issues later. So basically, a step-by-step approach is always better, as we know that we cannot climb all the planks of a stairs at once, as we might fall down and reach to level 0 again. The last lesson learned is to maintain continuous support and political momentum to ensure successful cooperation. Funding and technical assistance should be consistent throughout the process, while more time should be allowed for new initiatives or groups to develop track record and gain respect within the region. As stated earlier, building relationships can take time, but collaboration becomes more and more effective over time. And we have seen this in multiple cases. Coming to the future goals and opportunities, then under the protocol, which we discussed briefly earlier, the protocol on environmental monitoring and data sharing is currently under development, which promises to be quite revolutionary, legally binding instrument for data exchange and joint environmental monitoring in the region. Apart from that, regional cooperation partnerships can also be seen as the further goals for the convention, and partnerships could be established with more international organizations, with the local and national NGOs of the region and the stakeholders to support the objectives of the convention. While the convention already places a good emphasis on research and data collection and the mechanism to collect the feedback about the implementation of the convention, investing in scientific research and comprehensive data collection can also improve the understanding of the Caspian Sea's ecosystem and inform evidence-based conservation strategies. The last point here is the ecosystem-based management. So basically, Caspian Sea, like other places around the world, like other ecosystems, has multiple ecosystems within itself. And we can study their connectedness, interdependence on each other for better management of the ecosystem. With this, we come to the end of the presentation, and thank you all for attending. Hope you all have a great morning, day, evening, night ahead. Thank you.